Welcome to the Hop Edition podcast, brought to you in association with the Malt Miller, your go-to choice for premium homebrewing ingredients and equipment. Whether you're a beginner starting out or an experienced brewer, the Malt Miller has got you covered. So for top quality products and customer service, jump over to themaltmiller.co.uk and tell them the Hop Edition sent you. We would also like to thank all our Patreons for their continued support with running and developing the pod. If you would like to become a member and gain access to exclusive perks and benefits, head over to patreon.com/the Hop Edition. Now it's time to get this pod started, so crack open a homebrew and enjoy the episode.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 122 of the Hop Edition podcast. And tonight we're going to be discussing a potentially controversial subject, but rooted in a recent Brewlosophy YouTube channel video where Martin Keane and Kat Pierce discuss the topic, what killed homebrew in the US. This intrigued us, and tonight we want to explore and debate and pull apart and look at our experience of what's happening in the UK homebrewing scene and try and decide, is homebrew dying or thriving? So that's really the subject of tonight's discussion. But before we get stuck in, let's just give some props to our partner sponsor, the Malt Miller, the premier supplier of all things homebrew. And I want to make a very special mention that needs to go to the upcoming Love and Beer Festival coming up on October 17th in London. It's a celebration of all things beer. So there's going to be a homebrew bar, there's going to be brewery collabs, there's going to be bottle shares, food vendors, plus much more. So you can get your tickets over at maltmiller.co.uk. Put Friday, October 17th in your diary. And we're also very excited to say that we will be pouring homebrew beer at the festival. Andy and I will be there, plus some of our other supporting gang. Unfortunately, Tricky may or may not be there, undecided. Hopefully going to join us
Late
in the
guest
evening.
appearance if you're lucky, maybe.
Yeah, nice. Like turn up fashionably late, Tricky.
I'll just roll in wearing all the medals and rosettes, you know.
Why not? Maybe a cape. That would be great.
We'll just put at the bar.
But listen, it would be fantastic just to meet any and all of our listeners that would like to come along and just come and have a chat and a beer with us. So, finally, if you're over at the maltmiller.co.uk, don't forget to check out the dedicated Hop Edition recipe section, where you can find a range of beers that featured on the podcast, some of our own creation, and also recipes from the various guests we've had on the podcast over the years. Another long intro. Sorry, guys. How are you doing?
Useful info.
There's some other stuff
welcome.
as well. I don't know if you've watched. The Malt Miller put up a video. You know, they do their Friday kind of video thing. And this bank holiday weekend, they've got a few deals on, I'm sure. I think there's a Bruzilla's going cheap.
Bruzilla 20% off, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And what else? I noticed there was some yeast selection as well. So Mango Madness, High Voltage, and one of the other yeast strains is on special.
Thermo-tolerant yeast strains. That
Yeah.
Totally.
Mango.
Yeah.
I was thinking the Mango Madness is one that I would definitely pick up.
Mango Madness is great. I've not used it
since
I first tried it out, but it's definitely, get some of that if you haven't used it before.
And the one I've got in my hand, which isn't on sale, but it's the Pineapple Passion. That is another banger of a yeast. If you're thinking,
Yeah. In fact, that's probably my favourite out of the lot. I haven't used High Voltage yet.
Oh, I used it for the Impy. That's what I
yes.
used it for.
Yeah, nice, sort of fairly clean.
Got a little video out related to that just dropped recently.
you?
You did,
Nice
should
little
mention
segue there, Owen. Thank you.
Where are people likely to find that, Tricky?
Over on the Dudes Brews YouTube channel, if you want to have a look at it. I used it for a West Coast Pale Ale. Yeah.
Litra, wasn't it? I remember watching it. Yep, I have seen it because I remember you talking about the characteristics of the yeast and how.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I'll not
Super
give any
clean.
spoilers.
Super clean.
Super
but,
clean.
Yeah.
Super clean.
clean.
Is it too
Yeah.
clean? That's the question.
No, that
Oh,
was the
is it
question.
too clean?
Is
Yeah,
it too
good
clean?
question. Good question. So just extending on the point of the special offers running on the Malt Miller website at the moment. You've got 10% off any 3 brew day
Yep.
in a box kits. They're also doing offers on their new fresh work kits for anyone that's interested in, I guess, the quality of all grain brewing, but are just getting started.
Yeast.
Those are a great option. There's yeast offers and lots
Even
of
a
things
keg
around the
filler.
firms as well. So
Yeah.
tons to check out there. So, what we drinking? We've got to start there, right?
Have you seen this? I've got the
Oh,
it's the Alora tester that I did, and that is 100% Maris water that I've got.
Alex Naughty.
Hop soup.
It is so good. It says here crisp extra pale Maris water, and it is amazing. I think I used half a kilo. I did. I used half a kilo of that Alora. You know, we got that bag
Nice.
as a tester, and I just used it all. So it was like 20 grams in the boil, 20 minutes, 30 grams at 10, and then 100 grams in a hop stand for 20 minutes, and then 350 gram dry hop. Beast.
Not holding back there then, Andy.
But do you know what? It's amazing. It is so good, and because you brewed with it as well, Owen, didn't you?
Yeah,
And it's like it's quite a delicate hop, would you say?
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, I'd kind of say it's definitely got a lot of flavour, but it doesn't punch quite like a Citra or a Mosaic or a
500 grams.
Nelson.
It's you get.
Yeah,
the
I'm
flavour.
sure if you were throwing off at it, you're probably gonna
500
get there.
grams. You
Yeah,
used the whole
half a
bag
kilo.
in that.
Yeah,
then.
whole bag. I just went
Literally all of it.
23 litres.
Fair play.
Yeah,
boy.
and it is juice.
No fucking about.
I'll send you it. I'm gonna send you it anyway. So, yep.
Yeah, I've been waiting, Andy, since
I know,
last time you
and-
mentioned it.
I know Brooksy the legend as well. He's getting some because he sent me the actual glass bottle adapter for the bowl ITAP. So
Oh, good lad.
yeah, ledge.
Good lad.
So I need to bottle up and send it out to you.
Well, I'm drinking my Märzen, which is actually the
Yes.
only beer I've got on keg at the moment because I went on holiday last week and demolished quite a few kegs with the support of the family.
Sweet.
So I'm in desperate need of some brewing, which is tomorrow's job. But the Märzen is still going, and it's still pretty clear, although it's not, I don't think, quite been the beer since I accidentally froze it.
Oh yeah.
Moved the temp probe in the Keyser. I just literally moved it. I didn't take it out. I just moved it from the bottom to the top, and
That's what happens.
yeah, it kind of froze the beer, which was a bit of a shame. And it's sort of finally clearing up again now, so it might return to its former glory, but still tasting pretty good.
Cool.
But I've talked about this beer numerous times in the podcast, so I'm not
Yeah.
going to bore everyone again.
Quite familiar with that one.
Yeah, what are you drinking, Tricky?
I've got a grisette. It's in an Andex glass, so you might have thought it was something else, but it's actually a grisette with the Revolution blend in it. So this was actually the beer that I put into the elusive competition with the Malt Miller.
low alcohol.
Didn't do anything in the competition, but
Yeah, I
it's a
didn't
really
see
nice
it
beer,
in the
and I've been getting stuck into it, especially during the hot weather, because it's only 3.5%.
Ideal.
Super drinkable. It's got hardly any hops in it, but it's like a really hoppy beer because it's such a low strength
Yeah.
beer, and it's got really light sort of malt character and body to it. Highly carbonated as well. It's got a little bit of that spicy, peppery kind of like saison kind of flavour to it from the yeast. So I used the Laumond Farmhouse strain, which is one of their hybrid ones, which is actually really good for this kind of beer, especially. And I really like it. So it's one of those where it's like I'm pleased I did the competition as motivation to make this beer, even though didn't do anything in the comp. But I'm really happy with how it came out, and I probably wouldn't have brewed it otherwise. So So yeah, it's good.
Would you brew it again?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I've been meaning to do another grisette since I did the first one, which was kind of fairly traditional, just had some SARS hops in it. But I had this, I had this feeling that it would work well with kind of like a Nelson forward, hop
Grapey
profile
type
to it,
thing.
because that, grapey with the saison kind of flavor profile, I think is quite a nice pairing that works quite well.
Yeah.
And I know that I've definitely had like either saisons or grisettes from people like the Colonel. I think we were possibly drinking some of them when we were at the Colonel after London Craft Beer Festival, but memory's a little bit hazy on that. I'm not sure why.
I wonder why.
But that it's a style that I think you can experiment with some of the more modern hops, but particularly the New Zealand hops I think work well in it. And if you haven't given it a go, I'd recommend it. If you're not that keen on the saison kind of flavor profile, maybe not, but it is a sort of light kind of nice sort of gentle introduction to that kind of like more rustic kind of, I don't know, sort of farmhousey sort of saison like table beer. And the farmhouse yeast as well is fairly gentle as far as the phenolic flavor goes, so it's not too in your face spicy. It's just got a nice little peppery edge to it, but it does work really well with that Revolution blend. I know it's not entirely Nelson, but it's mainly the Nelson flavor you get from it. So I'd recommend giving that a go. I think I did do a video on the original grisette that I did. I basically just subbed out the hops I used in that for Revolution blend. You could just use straight Nelson, very light dry hops, so it's literally only like 20 grams or so, but it tastes like the sort of hoppiness you'd get in a beer that's got 3 or 4 times that. Motueka would work great, I think. Yeah, 100%. But probably some of the American hops as well, to be fair. So yeah, I will rebrew it and probably try it with different hops next time. But I quite like the New Zealand vibe in it. It's good.
You love the old Antipodean hops, don't you, Drew?
Yeah. Well, the ones from the smaller island. Yeah.
The smaller island Fedus. Yeah, I mean, I was very impressed with that hop Revolution blend in the previous New Zealand Pilsner that I made. And I'm not sure I've ever mourned a keg kicking more than that keg. I was nearly in tears when I got the foamy.
Well, I've got a keg
spurts.
with this on and a keg with the New Zealand Pils that I regularly make with Revolution blending as well. And
Nice.
I'm basically just alternating between the two, and they're both going to die within probably two glasses of each other, I would imagine. But
Because you always get that keg that just never ends, doesn't it? And it just keeps giving you beer, and it's it's probably not your favourite one.
It's not usually the one with the beer you really like in it, though, is it? Unfortunately.
No.
It's like, hurry up, kick. I
Have a
start
guess
pouring steins of it.
Have a guess what I'm brewing tomorrow.
Hazy.
No.
New Zealand Pilsner.
Yes. Yeah, how did you
I
guess,
actually
Jake?
knew
How did
that.
you
I
guess?
don't know.
Yeah, and I'm double batching it this time. I learned from last time. It's time to double batch. No, in fact, that will likely be one of the beers that I will take along to pour at Love and Beer.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you know what yeast that you're using?
The previous version I used après ski, and I do not have enough après ski to do a double batch, and I haven't been organised enough to do a starter. So I'm probably going to use hopping pills.
Okay, beast.
Cool.
Yeah, so I think it's still going to be like quite a nice floral, fairly fruity yeast character contribution. It's going to end up being a slightly different beer.
Yeah,
but,
you'll get more malt.
And it won't attenuate quite as much.
Yeah,
as
it'll
the
be multi
après
sweet
ski.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so it
Hopping
might be a
Pils
little
was
sweet.
marketed as an IPL yeast anyway, even though we know it's actually like the Mars End
Oktoberfest
thing.
type, yeah.
But
Mars.
obviously, IPL, New Zealand Pils, you're in the kind of same sort of ballpark there, aren't you? So
It'll still get crispy.
Should work well.
Yeah, I think I'm anticipating though that I think it works so well because of that après ski yeast that it attenuates down to like 80%.
Yeah.
You get like a super crisp lager. So we'll see.
Maybe
We'll
just
see.
mash in at 65.
I am already. Yeah.
So that's
you
you might be okay.
Yep. All good. Should we
Cool.
get going?
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's do that.
Let's talk about the death of homebrew.
Alleged
The
death.
alleged death of homebrew. Actually, before we start, I just wanted to kind of make the observation that whilst
The clickbait.
Martin and Kat's video was, it was very interesting. I think we've all seen it.
Yep.
If you haven't watched it, go find it. It's on the Brewilosophy
YouTube
channel. And it made some very, very interesting points. And I think we're not here to necessarily critique that video and or just try and kind of make a case as to
But
why
we might
they're
critique
wrong.
it a bit.
We might a little bit, but
Well, we
I
are.
think what we're interested in doing is kind of taking the theme that they started talking through, some of the arguments that they made, and maybe have a conversation about, well, what's that looking like in the UK? How's perhaps the US versus UK homebrewing scene differing? And really just get an understanding of whether we do or don't agree with the statements that they made. So
Because it was a bold statement. They were like, straight out, homebrew's dead.
It
Like,
was.
It was like, wow.
Yeah,
Right,
it wasn't
okay.
presented as a
Argument?
discussion or it was very much homebrew's dying. This is why.
It was perhaps a little bit biased. There was a little bit, sort of factually stated rather than kind of arguing the toss, so to speak. But equally, as I just wanted to make that point, as respect to Martin Keane, respect to Brewilosophy. They make some great content, and we're not trying to be, we're not trying to make enemies here. We're inspired.
Oh, it's
some
good.
intrigue.
It's good.
And it's
topic.
a great
Yes.
topic and subject to
Yes.
debate. So all good.
As we had to state on some of our Facebook posts, it's a point of discussion rather than a
Yeah, it was
statement
amazing.
of fact. So
The engagement on the socials was through the roof. A lot of people got really vocal about it, and some people were agreeing, like they have seen a downtake, and others were like, no, it's absolute nonsense, and here's why. And everyone was really kind of putting in their input, which was really cool to see.
So we're going to start off by just sort of going through some of the points that were presented by Brewilosophy in that video. And I think, Andy, it was you that sort of watched it through and took the notes down, wasn't it? So do you want to give us some of the sort of the highlights of what, or lowlights maybe of what they were saying was,
it was
going wrong?
He had Kat Pierce on, and she was from Atlantic. Was it Atlantic Homebrew Supply in the States, and they had just shut as well. So they were a more brick and mortar type homebrew shop that served in loads of communities all across the United States, and people would come in and have discussions with them, and they would give them advice and sell them homebrewing equipment. So a lot of this was from her point of view, but they kind of they came out with all these, I think it was like 6 or so odd facts or something, but one of the things they were saying was that the membership of the Homebrewing Association, the American Homebrewers Association, was like 46,000 or so members, like 2018 or so, and then I think since COVID they've seen a 30% decline in members. And then also on top of that was the Homebrew Con as well. They kind of stopped that, didn't they? That kind of get cancelled as an event. So there was a kind of tie up there as well. And then also obviously I just said there that they've had that kind of closure of the brick and mortar homebrew shops as well. So they were seeing the Atlantic Homebrew Supply kind of disappear, I suppose, and that was a big decline for them. And I suppose we've kind of seen that as well, haven't we, in the UK a little bit with some of the homebrew shops. Like Wilco's was probably one. I don't know if but that's probably a good entry point for a lot of people that would just go in the door, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think so, and I think we've got an interesting hypothesis there, that maybe we'll kind of talk a bit about later. But yeah, we have started to see, some of the bricks and mortar suppliers disappear in the same, or perhaps to a slightly lesser extent than the US. I'm not sure we necessarily had perhaps quite as many brick and mortar homebrew stores as what the US did.
I certainly don't think we would have had the larger, more established sort of multi-store brands like perhaps they were referring to in that video. Certainly you've probably seen a reduction in the much smaller scale kind of independent shops that would have been in the town, not necessarily even all town centres, but in some town centres. We used to have one in Bedford. They haven't ceased to exist, but they have moved out of town because they, I guess, either weren't doing enough business or couldn't afford to stay where they were. But I've certainly, it's not something we've got any definitive facts and figures on, but I think the general consensus is that yes, smaller scale homebrew shops in towns have generally sort of reduced in number, if not ceased to exist completely in a lot of places. Obviously Wilco's is a little bit of a different story because they weren't primarily a home brew shop, but as Owen says, we're going to come back to that a little bit because I think they maybe played a sort of important role in terms of being a high street staple where a lot of people might have potentially seen home brewing stuff on the shelf for the first time. But yeah, we'll talk about that a bit more later.
Yeah, and other things that she was saying, like there's the rise in craft beer availability as well. So it was, that was kind of a thing that, people can now get access to great beer. So maybe don't need to actually make their own beer. Other things was, she was talking about like kind of barrier to entry. So like a lot of, but it was a lot older people as well, and maybe the kind of younger people coming in, there was maybe a bit of a sort of gap there, sort of thing, where it's harder to get into. So I'm just trying to think what else there was, because I did take a note on my phone. There was a rise in costs as well, so raw materials and stuff because of maybe climate change, tariffs and
I mean, that's something that can't really be argued with. We've all seen the prices of everything, including homebrew ingredients, going up. Again, perhaps an argument there to say, but the cost of beer generally also rises, so the motivation to homebrew as far as cost saving should still be there to an extent. But yeah, again, something we'll come back to maybe.
But I wonder if that will end up driving down people drinking altogether because of the cost on both sides. What else? There was, I talked about generational change. Maybe people were aging out of the hobby as well, so people getting older don't have the time, or a lot of people were selling their kit, or health issues type things she talked about. And then she mentioned about like online killing the brick and mortar stores. And she was saying that's a kind of downside where you couldn't meet the staff and discuss about what type of fruits and stuff you could put in your beer. How would you add fruit into beer and that. But I would say that on the counter to that just now, that we're not seeing that. I would say that we're getting a lot of good education online these days, especially through the Malt Miller. That if you're looking for a video on how to do things, you can go in there. Or even like yourself, Tricky, like you've done a lot of how-to stuff as well in the past. Like if someone's looking how to dose something into their keg, there's probably a gadget that you've came up with in the past or something. A lot of people probably refer to.
I think calling it a gadget might be overstating it a little bit, but
or mini kegs.
A method anyway. Yeah.
How to package
reuse
your beer
the mini kegs.
Yeah, the mini kegs. That's probably quite a popular one.
Is that your most popular video?
It is. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Mostly me in a shed just shaking a mini keg, going, "There's a thing in there somewhere that you need to get out."
How do I get this pop it out?
Exactly.
Amazing. So I think in reality we're acknowledging that there's been some change in consumer behaviour.
Yeah.
Right, which is contributing to this factor. Was there anything else, Andy?
No, it just I think I mentioned earlier about the barrier to entry due to education and age, but
Yeah. So younger, perhaps there's a view that perhaps younger generations aren't, drawn to the hobby, and I think, broadly speaking, there's a bit of a conversation. Having read a few articles on this, calling for how do we make homebrewing more inclusive? How can we make homebrewing more attractive to younger people? Which again is kind of an interesting point. Does the hobby need to do that in order to survive? Are we not going to survive as a result of not bringing younger people into the hobby? We'll talk a bit more about that later as well. There are a few things that we also added in terms of our thoughts. I think that the sort of advancement we've seen over the last probably at least 5 or 6 years in home brewing gear, in the advancement of the technology, perhaps might feel overwhelming to those kind of coming to the hobby new, depending on your mindset. Some people like things simple, some people really geek out on that sort of thing and find it super interesting.
I think we've all geeked out.
Yeah, that's horses for courses, I think. Time versus reward. Some people, perhaps might not necessarily want to commit the time to home brewing versus the convenience of buying really good beer. And of course, the availability of really great beer arguably has increased too.
That seemed to be quite a big thing as far as the American view on, the downturn. I actually saw some other videos of a similar ilk to that, which were maybe a little bit older as well than the Brewlosophy one. I think there was one from Clawhammer where they were talking about sort of they were looking at some Google searches actually, which again Owen might have something on that later on, but they were looking at sort of Google searches of how to brew beer versus like craft beer brewery, and it was very much a kind of like one going up and the other going down, crossing over. I think I can't remember exactly when the date was, but it was around the point where craft brewing was really taking off. So that seemed to be made quite a big deal of in America. Again, maybe there's an element of that over here, but is it the same? Or I struggle with that one personally, because sort of the reason that I got into brewing in the first place was because I was tasting these really great beers and kind of wanted to have a go at making them myself, not that I couldn't buy them. Do you know what I mean? Like for me anyway, I feel like it's more of an inspiration to make beer than a reason to go, well, I can just buy it, so what's the point? It's like I can go and buy a great meal in a restaurant, but it doesn't mean I don't want to learn how to cook one at home.
No, but my taste.
Do you see what I mean? Yeah,
my taste changed. All that ended up happening with me was I just ended up buying more expensive beer because I wanted to drink the best beer. That's that whole £7-8 a can. Whereas my mates are still like, oh, have you, the £2 cans and whatever in the supermarkets or whatever, like they're the best, and you're like, I mean, have you had track?
yeah, that's a very good point, Andy. But there is also that phenomena, which is not true for all homebrewers, but the phenomena that I get into homebrewing to brew cheap beer is pretty much a myth, right?
The ultimate fallacy of homebrewing.
That's what you tell your missus.
Because of the sunk costs
so
that go in.
It's saving me £1 a pint on it.
But instead of drinking 5 pints, a month, you end up drinking like 500 pints. It's like...
Hopefully not, Andy, but you never know. You never know. And there's other factors like changing drinking habits for health. That's particularly relevant for the younger generations who appear to be kind of, in the main. This is a generalisation, perhaps, but kind of shunning alcohol in favour of perhaps
health.
going to the gym, or perhaps other
rock climbing,
other substances other than alcohol. So that's an interesting one, and the last point was just that kind of financial hardship, which I think we have talked about. The last few years have been tough for a lot of people, and therefore there's less disposable money for things like hobbies, particularly immersive ones like homebrewing.
Even going on a night out on, like, used to be you could maybe get on a night out 50, 60 quid, and now it's well over £100 easy
Oh yeah, for sure.
for a night out.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this day and age, £100 doesn't go very far, does it?
Nope.
In reality.
Nope.
So, where do we want to start then? Where do we want to start in terms of those kind of various arguments in favour of death for homebrew? Should we just start from the top then, in terms of just this kind of broader observation about, well, you know, we've seen this decline in America Homebrew Association memberships. That's declined 30%. That must be an indication that therefore the hobby's declining. There isn't a great deal of data out there to kind of really support how many homebrewers there are, because in reality, you know, it's not something in the consensus. A lot of people are just brewing at home and not necessarily part of the wider community.
It's a great headline figure, isn't it? As far as like something to say, oh, look at how bad it's got, and we've gone off a cliff edge here. 30% decline in a handful of years. If you see that in isolation, you go, oh wow, yeah, you know, homebrewing's in trouble. Yeah. But
shifted. There's a shift, isn't there?
Is there anything else behind that?
And I mean, it also, I think you know, how much do they peak and trough year on year? Mm-hmm. So to kind of call out just a single year to year shift is probably unfair, because that just might be natural variance within common cause variation, right?
Yeah.
Probably unlikely at 30%, but you kind of never know. So it's kind of, there's going to be a lot of lies, damn lies, and statistics going on. Mm-hmm. You mentioned about Clawhammer Supply, looking at some of the Google search trends. We've done the same, you know, and that's kind of another point of factual observation that we can try and glean in terms of what we think might be happening in the wider kind of interest of the hobby. And we did look at that, and we studied kind of 3 key search terms. Yeah. One was homebrewing, one was homebrew, and one was craft beer. So actually the homebrew and craft beer bit seemed to kind of resonate quite a bit. Homebrewing was just sort of a very small volume in comparison. And we looked at UK versus US, and I think broadly speaking, homebrewing as a search term has remained relatively flat, probably for in excess of the last 10 years and over 10 years. And it varies ever so slightly. We've seen a few peaks and troughs. In the UK, we saw a real peak around sort of like COVID. We'll talk a bit more about that later. So I guess there's a caveat here as well to say that, you know, certainly in the last year to 2 years, probably more, other platforms may have become more established portals for information around homebrewing. Yeah. So people might faster go to YouTube, or they might go to ChatGPT, or that Google might be kind of seeing. So that you have to kind of consider within the context of that data. The craft beer piece seems to have not dropped off as significantly in the UK as it has in the US. Mm-hmm. It seems like that's actually kind of, in fact, dipped below what homebrewing is in terms of a search term, which is quite interesting in America. Although whether they use the term craft beer quite as much as we might, they might refer to it as something else. I'm not sure. I'd stick something in the comments if you think that's the case. So I think my conclusion out of looking at those Google search trends is, I'm not sure we're really seeing much in the way of a decline.
There's not a clear and obvious trend, is there?
Not really.
Definitely say that.
And a point really I made earlier on our planning chat was, remember, Google came into existence probably in 2005, so everyone was using it or something, you know. So the search you see, like that homebrew in the UK, it just jumps up around 2005 and then gradually kind of starts going down. But
Yeah.
is that because people were using Google a lot at the start and now everyone's on YouTube searching for homebrew,
Yeah.
or they're on Instagram
Well, I think
searching?
YouTube is a really good
or-
point, actually, because like there's obviously a huge amount of information, particularly like tutorial style information on YouTube for stuff like that. And, you know, I know for certain things, I'll go straight to YouTube rather than going via Google. Like if I want to look up, let's say, for example, like a review on a hop. I know there's quite a few YouTube channels that do reviews on hops. I'm not watching my own videos. I'm talking about other people. But, you know, I'll go and watch, go onto YouTube if there's some obscure hop I've never heard of before. I'll search on there rather than Google, because I know if you go on Google, you just get the generic, like, you know, hop growers flavor profile, tropical fruits,
also,
and, you know, rather than this and that.
Yeah, can be an advantage.
And I think, you know, that's a really, really good point, isn't it? Because, you know, there's an element of technology evolving that will be influencing. And to Andy's point, whilst I made a statement around the trends probably for the last 10 to 13 years, if you go back 20 years, there actually is quite a clear decline. There was much more interest in Google search terms between 2004 and 2011.
Yep.
But that's probably reflective of the fact that there wasn't as much content on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it was like,
and how big has YouTube become in that period? It's like that is a massive player as far as, like, you know, content for hobbies generally, not just for homebrewing, but a direct competitor for people to go somewhere where you can search directly in, you know, obviously in YouTube for specific things. And a lot of people will go direct to that because they know they're going to get a different type of content rather than having to trawl through pages of Google search results.
Really good point. Yeah, for
just
sure.
Watch the graphs. Yeah,
I think historically, you know, the main source of information were going to be forums.
Yes.
Right.
Which you might have gotten to via Google. Quite
precisely that. You're likely to use the search engine in order to find one of those. And I think actually we've probably seen the death of the homebrew forum to a larger or lesser extent.
It just went to Facebook. So
well,
Facebook.
I used to be
Facebook groups
pretty heavily involved in some of the homebrewing forums, and actually sort of the genesis of the podcast itself came from me kind of chatting with Chris through one of those forums, and, you know, watching him getting kicked off of most of them, and then eventually going, well, you can't talk to anyone anywhere else, so I guess we're going to have to do a podcast to you know, carry that conversation on. But yeah, those forums are still exist, and there's lots of people who still go on there and use them, but it's definitely been a transition of people moving to Facebook groups. I mean, you look at the amount of Facebook groups that are related to homebrewing now. There's YouTube channels. There's, you know, I think there's just so many different places that you can go to that it's kind of, you can look at those graphs and think that's more of a, or you could certainly argue that that's more of a sign of the, you know, divergence of is that and actually what there, you naughty boy, a divergence of where people are going, as opposed to just like that's the only, you know, exclusively we can judge it on the usage of Google or whatever it might be. So I think if you could in some way consolidate the information from all of those platforms, you might see quite a different picture on it. You might just see a fairly stable line like we do on Google across more recent years, but I think you'd certainly see a higher number overall, wouldn't you? So yes,
I'd agree with that statement, and I think there's an interesting segue, right, from when you start to talk about the consumption of community and learning and information, then into one of the points that were kind of was made about the bricks and mortar thing, which was the bricks and mortar piece is going, and that's kind of eliminating a channel for advice and learning and stuff like that. So what's our thoughts on that?
again, different in the US to here, I think is probably the first point to make. And we've said we don't really want to sit here and kind of just try and pick apart the video, but that said, the video in terms of addressing the commercial aspect of homebrew retail was very much focused on the thoughts of somebody who was directly involved in boots on the ground, bricks and mortar retail, as opposed to, and this was something we talked about in the sort of planning chat we had before the pod, was like that where was the representation from a US equivalent of the Malt Miller to sort of say, well, sorry guys that your shops have closed down, but we're doing great,
exactly.
One man's loss is another one's gain, and no data as to sort of the overall market in terms of sales. It's like, obviously there's an indication of something going on there in terms of a change of the market, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the overall business is in decline as far as like the sales across the board. So I guess that was the main point to make.
There's a lot more variables at play as to why bricks and mortar establishments are closing than just the decline in the interest in the hobby, right?
It was
because you've got changing consumer interests and behaviours, plus you've got a lot of
ingredients
macroeconomics at play.
Remember, it was like you go into your local homebrew shop and all the hops would be sitting out baking in the sun, or the yeast packets were just hanging up, not in chillers or anything, and you're just like, you can get much fresher ingredients online because they're actually stored correctly. Whereas, the homebrew shops are maybe like they have been going for the last 20, 30 years before. I mean, my granddad used to go to the one in Glasgow, and it would be like, they still knew about that one. So maybe the methods, with the newer hops, especially with American hops, it's like you want to keep that stuff cold, and that's money as well for these shops to keep everything blooming cold packed. But they want to keep, they want to tell you what's available as well. So
refrigeration and stuff like that. I mean, personally, I don't think I've ever, aside from going into Wilco to buy the odd bag of spray malt, I'm not sure I ever went to a bricks and mortar homebrew shop, because there wasn't any around near me. I think I had to drive like 50 miles to get to the nearest one. So it was never really an option for me.
And Tricky, you did, but I think you were telling us a story about the advice you used to get about, what was it, the champagne one or something? What was that story?
There was a homebrew shop, and bless the old boy who used to work there. He was very enthusiastic and was willing to help out and give advice as best as he could. But in hindsight, I would say not wanting to be mean about it, but he certainly wasn't like the best informed person out there for it, especially when you compare it to what you learn further down the line. And very encouraging and very positive about the hobby, but did give us some advice that could have resulted in some slightly explosive bottles in the shed, shall we say. So
that's not good. But then I guess that's one story, and probably not a reflection of the sort of the wider expertise that I'm sure a lot of brick and mortar places would be able to offer historically. So it's a bit of a shame to see that decline, as much as it is a shame to see the general high street decline. But that has just been the macro observation of how consumer behaviours are changing, isn't it? Like, people don't want to have to get in their car when they can just log on to a website on their phone and order something, and it arrives
and it's there 2 days
two
later.
days. It's like there's just an effort thing there, isn't there?
And the selection as well. That was it. Like, you look at the Malt Miller now, and the amount of yeasts that they've got, wet, dry, all the different various malts that you could think of, and then just the fact that they've got kits made up, all grain kits. They've got liquid. Everything's there for anybody. It's not like, here's a dry malt, extract kits.
Yeah,
and
well,
that's all
the shop we used to have, they'd have your buckets, your extract kits,
The festival
you know,
IPA or something.
dry.
you know?
Yeah, they'd have a reasonable selection of those, but a lot of the stuff there looked pretty dry and dusty and old, and they had a little bit of grain and some hops in there, but it was literally it was like the Youngs or the brew packs, like Fuggles
brew packs,
in a bag that was sat literally on the sunny window, so you could see the hop, leaf hops as well, so you could see them turning brown in the packet, and and that's not to like shit on them. It was just that's the nature of the business, where you've probably got one old boy every 3 months coming in to buy those hops from them, and to make his sort of
best
tradition
bitter.
trad best bitter at home in a copper pot or whatever,
Which was great.
which probably turned out great, but it wasn't a sort of turn up and have you thought about getting into all grain brewing, and we've got these amazing hops, have a sniff of these new Citra that we've got in, or it was very much not that, and that was like, that sort of encouragement was not something that I saw until it was like going into online spaces to find that. So
Woodford's ready for the win.
Always great beer, to be fair. So we've got the other piece just in terms of rise of craft beer availability, and this is an interesting one, right? And is that going to be putting people off or potentially encouraging them into the hobby? I'm divided on that one.
Yeah.
Right, because everyone needs that moment of epiphany, don't they? In terms of having drunk boring beer, they discover something really exciting.
Yeah.
And for some people
Punk
that will
IPA,
go, wow, and that
Yeah.
starts the journey, and a part of that journey might be homebrewing.
That's exactly it for me.
But then equally is a lot of people might be thinking, why do I have to make homebrew if I can just buy craft beer? But
maybe you've done it for
again, I think there is another sort of thing here between the US and the UK to sort of call out, as far as a little bit of a difference there, in terms of the argument kind of makes sense a little bit more to me, as far as like people getting into home brewing because they didn't want to drink macro lager and that was the only thing they could get. I feel like that was probably more of a likely scenario in large parts of America. Whereas here, certainly at the during the period through which I was sort of starting to get into home brewing, there was always good quality beer available to go out and drink. It wasn't necessarily always craft beer, but you could go and get decent European beer, where you could get decent cask beer, and there was good beer to be drunk, basically. Like, I never felt like I was only limited to a Carling or a Foster's sort of option. Therefore I had to start making beer because I couldn't stand drinking that kind of stuff. And I think, as you were alluding to, Owen, for me it was kind of like I started drinking the craft beer, and then that really piqued my interest, going, oh, actually there's more to it. I'm quite interested in actually having a go at trying to make something where I can experiment with these new exciting hops and whatever it might be. That was kind of for me what made me kind of go, oh, actually homebrewing could be quite interesting if you don't just have to make brown beer or lager. Basically, I was kind of like, actually there's a lot more room for experimentation than I realized.
So what was it? Did you try craft beer and then you went, oh, I want to try and make this, and then that's when you looked into homebrew?
Well, I think I'd done kit beers before, where it's kind of like your Woodfords, like I'm making the cask beer at home, and it was kind of like, they're all right, but it's not like amazing, and it's not quite as what you would get as in terms of a commercial beer. And for me it was then kind of like, it was probably trying the craft beers and going, oh, actually, like, there's something beyond that. And then that sent me down the rabbit hole, basically, of like looking at all grain and how to do that, and the stovetop recipes, and basically finding recipes that were like, you can just buy some Cascade for like £3 for a packet, and you can make a Sierra Nevada style beer on your stovetop. That for me was where it was like, oh, actually, like, I can actually do something like that relatively easily, and I'll give that a go, see what happens. And it spiraled out of control from there, essentially. So
what about yourself, Owen? How did you get into it?
I think Sierra Nevada did it for me, actually. I remember just sort of picking that up in the supermarket and just sort of trying that and just be like, whoa, this is awesome.
And then it was because the availability of that wasn't great, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tesco started stocking it, and then
Okay.
I think also like, and I might get some hate in the chat for this, but BrewDog as well. And I think sort of early doors, Punk IPA,
Of course, I think a lot of people.
Elvis
They all
Juice,
wanted to
those
clone
kind
them.
of beers, which
Yeah,
sort
yeah,
of
yeah.
started emerging in
Yeah.
the supermarket.
2010s
Yeah.
sort of
No,
thing.
I mean,
oh, you're
we
trying a bit
do.
of
We all love to give BrewDog a bit of shit like
But no,
nowadays,
they-
but
yeah.
they were the brand that got me into it, and
Yeah,
probably the
and they
brand
put the book.
that
they had the full
inspired me to
recipe.
homebrew like more than anyone else.
They gave us all the
Um,
recipes, didn't they? So
Yeah,
we
and
were all like,
a lot of people talk about Punk IPA and everything, but me it was probably 5 a.m. Saint.
Saint.
Or whatever. It was the one that I was like, I want to make a sort of a hoppy amber beer. That was kind of my thing at first.
Oh,
Was like,
okay.
I want to do
what
an
was the other
amber
one?
beer that's
Dead Pony.
hoppy.
Dead
Dead
Pony
Pony
Club.
Club
That
as
was
well
my
was a great
favourite.
one.
I mean, that was a great beer.
And Hazy no, was it? Hazy
Yeah,
Jane?
in its day, that was a great
Yeah.
beer, and I've actually made homebrew clones of that a couple of times, and it is a really good beer if you follow the recipe.
Yeah.
It's a very very nice beer.
Although caramel.
Well, Elvis Juice was really nice when it first came out. It's not. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely not the same thing anymore. But
It's not.
They went
anymore.
back. They've actually went back to more what Elvis was, so it is better
Oh,
again.
really? Yeah.
Yeah.
It ended up very chemically the last time I tried it, which
I think they reduced alcohol
that's a
on it.
good shout there from Steve with the Gamma
Yeah.
Ray as well.
Oh.
Gamma Ray was a big one for
That
me.
was a good day.
yeah. I think to a slightly lesser degree, like Welsh Brewery, which I don't have much of a taste
Oh,
for these
yeah,
days,
yeah.
but
Tiny Rebel.
Rebel.
Tiny Rebel.
Yeah.
Club
No, they
Shop
again they
Ghana.
did have some good beers when they started out.
Tiny Rebel in my hand.
They're red IPA or amber ale, whatever it was. Kutch, I think it was.
Kutch.
Kutch. Don't know how to say it in
Kutch,
proper
Kutch
Welsh.
is
Kutch.
Kutch is cuddle in Welsh. If you didn't know.
Can I quickly, just for myself,
Good
I
bit.
was right into German beer. We had West Brewery up in Glasgow, and I'd got right
Yeah.
into that, and they had Munich Red and the Hefeweizens and stuff like that. And it was, my missus was actually, she mucked up and she went and bought me one of these Brooklyn Brew Shop little 1 gallon things as a tester. So it's her fault that I actually got into it in the first place. Is that, like that kind of brewing gift thing that you
Yeah.
can get. So that's how I fell into it, because I liked quality German beer. And
Yeah.
Brewdog, I think, like we talked about, kind of.
And you telling that story, Andy, kind of reminded me of something we mentioned earlier, and we said we were going to pick back up on, which related to the bricks and mortar thing, and you kind of made the point about Wilco
Yeah.
and some of like the really big high street places. So for those that aren't familiar with Wilco was a W.H. Smith's, Trader Joe's type style superstore on the high street that tended to carry some homebrew stock. So it would tend to have like kits and buckets and bungs and hydrometers and just some really basic stuff, right? Spray malt. And we were talking earlier in the week when we were doing this planning just around the hypothesis that actually
That's entry.
that disappearing, does that sort of start to limit that impromptu buying
General
a kit
public.
for someone
Yeah.
as a gift that very often starts someone on the hobby?
Yeah.
Because that's how I started. I was talking about it for quite a while, to be fair, but then someone bought me a kit and was like, well, put your money where your mouth is type thing.
Yeah.
I've still got the can of I actually never made the kit. Would you believe? Right,
No
never
way.
made the kit,
You need to make it
and
now.
I've still
tomorrow.
got the can of liquid extract malt.
That needs to be done. That's like, is it Mick? Mick?
That is an experimental brew waiting to
Yeah,
happen.
exactly.
It's like 6 or maybe 6 years old, 7
Yeah.
years
Get
old.
it done.
Get back on the
more than
YouTube as
that.
well so you can document that one.
Aye.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, guys.
But
The
there
world's
has
oldest can of extract. or
there has
something.
been talking about online and getting people into it. Painter has done a big sort of thing of getting people into homebrew recently, so they've had all the ads running on YouTube and that. So, and I know people that I've worked with that have been given a painter as a present sort
Yes.
of thing, and that's maybe sparked their interest into homebrewing. And Malt Miller's even done like how to hack a pinter, because you'll probably find that people actually, they've got the pinter kit, but maybe they want to try a bit of all grain and then put it into the pinter, because it is a fermenter and dispense sort of thing. So yeah, you can do that. So.
It's kind of a bit of a like gateway drug, isn't it? The pinter,
Yeah.
you know. And I bet you there's like Facebook forums out there and stuff on like how to hack pointers. I bet you there's loads of debate going on about how to do it.
There'll be videos, yeah, and it's basically what's a pinter? It's a fermenter, and it's like a cask solution, isn't it? It's basically a kind of cask bottling, because you let air in after, so you will need to drink it pretty quick before it goes off. But I bet you,
I mean, it's
make great beer.
It's quite innovative, right, in what they came up with.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know a lot about them, but I think it's effectively an all-in-one type thing, isn't it? Like you serve it out the same thing as you make it in.
It's extract based still. Obviously it's a little extract sort of tub in it that
that's
then ferments in the
hops.
container, but will essentially.
Pre-brew.
I mean, it's kind of like a pressure barrel type thing, fermenter all integrated into one package, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's pressure for it does it under pressure, I'm sure. And then when you close the valve, then it's pretty cool.
That's quite smart to think about. Like, we'll pressure ferment it to try and keep it a bit cleaner. Yeah.
Spun because it's a preset spun.
Keeps keeping oxygen out and all that kind of stuff as well. So it's probably it's
Good
fairly
thought.
well thought out sort of thing.
Right, I'm selling my homebrew gear and buying a pinter.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can get two or more if you sell your homebrew gear, mate. I think. Sorry, go on, Owen.
No, go on, mate. Go on.
Well, I was just going to sort of rewind a bit, because like right at the very beginning we mentioned that the home brewing association thing, and we kind of alluded to there being potential reasons for that, and it not necessarily being entirely linked to a decline in people actually home brewing at home. I think Andy did mention the HomebrewCon thing, but I think I mean I'm no expert on this, and if there's anyone in the chat who's actually from America, do please chime in with some information on this, or if you listen to it afterwards, do please get on the comments and give us some more info on this if you have experience of it. But from some of the chatter that I've seen online, certainly there's definitely been some fairly big issues around what I believe is one of the big perks of being a member of the AHA, which was the HomebrewCon event, which in previous years, from what I've seen online, has been absolutely amazing and epic, and attended by pretty much everyone as far as the homebrewing companies in the US and outside of the US, breweries, all sorts of things. Massive sort of like almost like a trade event, but for amateur brewers essentially. And that was essentially put on hiatus in 2024, and merged into the Great American Beer Festival. And from what we've read about that since, essentially it's kind of ceased to be, as far as what it used to be. It's like a small section of that festival that's kind of like basically just a homebrew meetup area, really, rather than
it's more
anything
commercial.
else.
Did you say, Tricky? It's like
it's literally part of the commercial Great American Beer Festival. So essentially it would be the equivalent of a home brew. No, well, not quite. It would be more like what was HomebrewCon here, just being a stand at the Great British Beer Festival, which Camera put on. I think would be the best equivalent to draw from that. So the Great American Beer Festival is basically the thing for all the commercial breweries to get together, and then they do judge beers and stuff there and decide who's got the best beer of the year and everything. But from what I gather, and again I'm totally open to being called out on this as this being total bullshit, but from what I understand, or from what I've seen online, there was a lot of people leaving the AHA primarily because of this issue, where they felt like they were basically torpedoing the main reason to sort of be a member of it, and this great event that was going on. So so that's something there. I think there's some points in there which are fairly indisputable, and there's certainly things that are potential issues and that will certainly have an impact for in some way. So the cost of raw materials, general price rises, all that kind of stuff. the wider availability of craft beer. But all of those things, I think there's an argument as to the impact and the effect of those, and how much of a long term, negative that's going to be for homebrewing participation. But I certainly think that the use of that headline figure as far as 30% decline of homebrew
other reasons.
association membership, I mean, some of that decline may well be down to less people homebrewing, but I think there's a lot of other stuff going on that needs to be considered as well. So I think it's a little bit, again, I don't want to say it's like misleading, but I think to put that in there without any background to it, and to say there's some other stuff happening which might have led to this. So, I think it would have just been better presented as this could be a really bad sign, but also, there's other stuff happening that might be a reason.
But we're not saying, but we can't. I don't think we can really make comment on the American scene because we're not in it to an extent. We are seeing it from a UK standpoint, aren't we?
Good point.
Yeah,
very good point. And COVID's an interesting point, right? And I think there were a couple of people in the chat that made this observation, and we also acknowledged it, that COVID, there was a huge interest spike in homebrewing.
Massive boom.
Because people were stuck at home.
Yep.
They might have been thinking about homebrewing at some point. People were taking up random hobbies, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And there was a genuine... And there was a lot of interest in people putting up home bars in their gardens, right?
Yeah.
Because, of course, especially those that enjoy a drink. But so the feeling might be, now we're years down the road from COVID, is that the hobby may be in decline, but in reality it's just returning to a kind of more baseline
stabilizing
number. Stabilizing to a baseline because we had this big peak as a result of COVID.
We did see a lot of equipment for sale on all the Facebook forums and eBay, etc.
I mean, I was doing videos prior to COVID, through COVID, after COVID, and it was obvious there was just a massive
mental.
The view. I mean, most of those views on that reusing mini kegs video probably came during those 2 years.
During COVID,
and it did just sort of go back. It look, if you looked at it in isolation, you'd be like, oh wow, that's a massive sort of drop off that your channel's tanking sort of thing. But it just dropped back down to where it was before, and carried on, and it's just been a sort of fairly steady. And the podcast itself was launched literally
just before,
in the midst of that. Yeah, just before it kicked off. It was like episode 3 or something when we went into lockdown. And I feel like that in a way sort of helped us quite a lot, because we kind of rode that wave of sort of people getting interested in homebrewing it, and long format podcasts were certainly something that a lot of people got into during that period where you were at home with not a lot to do.
But the podcast is growing.
It launched us quite quickly, but it didn't stop dead afterwards. We have seen a steady increase since then, and I think somebody asked about, have we seen an increase in viewers? It's not gone off it's not gone to the moon, but look at how many people are watching live tonight.
28.
We've gone from probably a year or 2 ago to having regularly 12, 15.
Yeah.
We're now regularly over 20 tonight. At one point we had over 30. So it's and we've got a steady increase of Patreons and people joining the after party and people on the Discord, and our community is growing. So
it has.
It's a fair observation, right?
Yeah.
That's gleaning from some of our own personal experience, which is good. Andy, do you have a point to make? I felt like you might have had a point to make in there, but
no, it's just like I was gonna Tricky kind of got onto. It was just we've seen our kind of community growing sort of thing as well. So it's not
good.
We've not seen a decline. We've seen really in the last the last 6 months or something, it has grown really. So no, it's been good.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I think so, getting onto the sort of generational thing, and I think there's a couple of interesting points here, right, in terms of there's this idea of maybe the older generations raging out of the hobby, yeah, that's probably always true, right? But that's just the nature of time. People are always going to be aging out of hobbies, right? And people are always going to be entering into new hobbies. And this idea that we have to be trying to draw new people into the hobby, particularly younger people, I think is a fallacy. I think broadly speaking, the parameters for becoming interested in homebrew typically, and I'm saying very strongly that, like, as a generalization, is going to be when you've settled down, you've kind of got a stable home, you've got some income to spend on a hobby, and that's kind of when you might start to have a think about getting into a subject like homebrewing. Not to say there aren't younger people getting into it, but the reality is, like, people will, by virtue of getting to a certain stage in life, probably cycle into the interest of the hobby.
Yeah.
And trying to kind of push it into, trying to get people that are in their 20s interested in homebrewing is probably a lost cause, frankly.
Yeah,
right?
because...
And there's an interesting analogy, right, which is around another one of my passions, which is golf. And they're always talking about how there's not enough young people getting into golf. Golf's going to die, blah, blah, blah. The reality is, when you start to hit your 30s, you tend to start, for whatever reason, maybe even 40s, getting interested in golf, right? And that is the, like, predominant demographic, is people that are somewhere in the age of 30 through to, like, 70 plus. And it's not a representation that golf's going to die or golf's necessarily in decline. It's just that younger people just maybe not that interested in the sport. It's probably the same situation with homebrewing. So I feel like that's one that's often debated.
Because you need a house, don't you?
I think it's a fallacy.
You need space to brew. And it tends to be when you're moving into your 30s, you probably find is you've bought your house, you've got a bit of space at the back or something, you've got the brew shed, or
exactly that,
or you're a kitchen brewer and you've got, but you've got you can't, if you're at home with mum and dad, there's just no chance, or you're in a tiny little flat. There's stovetop, but it might be more difficult for your equipment and stuff. So once you buy your own place and you've got a bit of money as well, then that's where you're going to be.
I totally agree, Andy. Yeah, and I think it's also like once you pass that point of like going out every Friday or Saturday night or both,
yeah,
and spending all your money pissing it up against the wall in the bars, and you actually like when you start to settle down and you go, I actually just prefer to have a drink at home.
The reason that happens is because you have kids and you're not allowed to go out. It's not against the wall.
I mean, there is that as well.
See if you were Del Boy, then you don't have a wife and kids, then you still go and do all that. It's just
I was deliberate to avoid the kind of point about kids, because I know there's an awful lot of people that are into homebrewing that don't have kids, so I'm not necessarily sure that is a predeterminant. But
no.
I think it's just it's a point of life. It's a point of inflection in terms of once you sort of calm down in life and maybe start getting interested in the hobby. So I'm going to probably just leave that one there, because I personally don't think that actually really is a
no, because you get
an
students.
Important point.
No, because you still get young people, students that maybe get right into it and then end up wanting to do it as a career as well. So
there's still some young, because like the funny thing I think about this is I'll go to breweries and I'll see young people who are there as brewers. I'll be like, oh, so how did you get into that? Like, oh, well, I thought brewing sounded like fun, so I went and did a degree in it. I was like, oh, so you must have done homebrewing before. Like, no, I've never brewed a beer in my life before I went and started working here. And you're like, oh,
wow.
I know that's like I've literally spoken to so many people similar. So it's not. I don't think it's like a route into the career even for younger people. It's just like, they'll go and just start working at a brewery, or even go to uni and start doing a course in it.
Chemistry.
Exactly, like chemistry or science or whatever. And it's the older people who've homebrewed and then go, oh, I might actually fancy doing this as a job, do that career
what,
path.
hobby?
It's not, yeah. Well, exactly.
Yeah, I think that there was sort of a really interesting comment on Facebook from a guy called Gary Clay, who made some really interesting points. I think it was Gary.
Yeah, that was, I think.
And it just talking a bit about how obviously homebrewing has a lot of interlink to trends within the wider beverage, particularly craft beer market, right? And I think the boom in craft beer, and particularly I think probably like the hazy IPA, like it or not, has, I think, drawn a lot of a younger crowd to homebrewing. So I think it's helped in the fact that craft beer has been trendy, and it's drawn hipsters and just a slightly younger crowd versus the kind of camera cask crowd.
Yep.
And that's kind of where you've got this sort of these almost two groups of people that I think have now homogenized over the time. But at some point we've had this historic kind of traditional beer style brewing group, and then this kind of craft beer interested group, and they've sort of come together. And I think actually craft beer, in the direction it's taken, has drawn a lot of younger people to the hobby, and I think that's great.
Yeah.
And I've got an interesting observation, and we'll talk a bit about our own experiences in terms of my homebrew club, which I've been going to probably for 5 years or so, or maybe more. Is that when I first joined, there was a lot of older guys that were more like camera members, producing predominantly traditional styles of beer. And over that time, we've tended to start to see a lot of younger people come in, more focused around kind of hazy beer, craft beer styles, not exclusively, but and what's interesting is like
when you say younger though, Owen, are we talking 30s onwards, or
I would
is there
say
anyone there who's in the younger bracket?
I would say like early 30s is probably the youngest, and I don't know. Like I'm judging just
Not
exactly.
how old
because
I think some of
because
these
it'll be a
people
big
are.
split, like 30s and guys in their 60s, 70s.
Yeah,
like,
that's a big age gap, right?
yeah, but it's amazing how we all get on.
Yeah, and I think we kind of what's interesting is now we see at my homebrew club, which attendance has been really strong actually over the last couple of years. COVID kind of really dipped down for obvious reasons. We did do some online stuff during the lockdowns and things, but I think there's more membership now than there was pre-COVID, and there's more younger people that are interested in craft beer, and probably the more kind of older crowd tend to not attend anymore. So it's quite an interesting shift, and personally one I think that's a positive reflection on the hobby evolving and growing and maturing. So yeah, that was an interesting observation. Sorry, I just went on a bit of a monologue there, but
no, but it's a good point to make. You're basically, from your point of view, and you're seeing in your homebrew club, like there is a changing of the guard sort of thing, but also that's a good thing. It's healthy.
Yeah.
There's new people coming into the hobby that keeps it alive, because if it's just the old guard that are just guarding it sort of thing, then it's going to die.
That's a good point. I think if it was sort of older brewers who are almost gatekeeping the hobby and going, oh, you can't come in here and be brewing that sort of beer. That's not what it is like in clubs. We gathered quite a lot of feedback from people via the Discord and via the Facebook posts and all the rest of it about how clubs are going, and feedback similar to what Owen's given there. And there was a range of different experiences. I think, like my own experience as far as Bedford homebrewers is that I am the youngest person there, even though I set it up like over 5 years ago. we did have a few younger members previously. They have dropped out. They have 30s somethings. But it's not a major concern because the other members are all into brewing modern beers as well. It's not like it's a sort of like everyone's here to
Brew
try and
kits.
make merry or anything.
Well, there's nothing wrong with making merry.
It's pretty forward thinking, and they're all kind of into it. And our membership we actually had a massive bounce back after COVID. Like there was we had almost the whole. We're in hosted by a fairly small tap room sort of bottle shop place called Beerfly in Bedford, which is a fantastic place to go if anyone's passing through. But it's relatively small, and we had a few meetings where we'd have sort of 20 plus people turning up post COVID because everyone was just desperate to get out, and there was people there that wanted to come and learn about how to use the kit they just bought during lockdown and all that sort of stuff as well. And it was actually really almost too busy at one point. And like the other stuff we've been talking about, it kind of just sort of like it settled back down to the normal level. But we've had very healthy attendance ever since, and we'll regularly have sort of 10 plus people turning up, and for a fairly small provincial club, that's fine. We're not like at the point where it's ever become a question of whether it's worth carrying on, and the shop's always been happy to host us. If it was like three blokes just sat in the corner drinking their own beer and making them have to open the shop for them, they'd probably be like, piss off. It's not bring any value to us. Yeah, where am I going with this? So we got feedback from lots of other people as well, and I don't think we got anyone who was kind of downbeat or negative about it. At worst, it was membership is stable. We've got consistent numbers turning up. We're still getting new members. Obviously you have a few people that drop off here and there, but we're still getting new members. We had a few people that were very positive.
Because who did you speak to?
I spoke to James Wilson from Lab as well, and he said that he felt like the sort of peak in terms of membership for their group was actually pre-COVID, which I thought was quite interesting. We hadn't.
Was that 2018 or something like that?
Even a little bit before that, I think it was I think he said it was kind of 2015 to sort of 2018. He felt like that was where it was really, really busy at the club. Mm-hmm. But the general gist was it's kind of like dropped off a little bit since then, but fairly steady. And the other interesting thing was that he seemed to think that they had a very wide demographic in terms of age group there. So the bigger clubs, maybe in city centres, will have more of your younger people there, more universities around, and people of that age who might be more inclined to get into it. And as you say, kind of like craft beer enthusiasts who are interested coming along as well. So cool. It's different pictures from different areas and different regions and all the rest of it, but we didn't have anyone that came back saying like the club has just died a death and there's nowhere to go. So I don't feel like we got any evidence to sort of say there's a clear trend downwards. It was either stable or actually we're doing quite well and we're picking up quite a lot of new members. And like yourself, Owen, we've got actually getting quite a few younger people coming in and sort of lifting or lowering even the sort of age demographic of the group. So I think club wise it sounded quite positive. The other thing that James talked about was the competitions, because he's heavily involved with the competitions that they run, and he said that they still pretty much always sell out. He said again they're not quite as fast as it was pre-COVID in that period where he said it was really busy, but they still sell out. And I think we talked about this again before the podcast that perhaps that's because there's more competitions around, and I feel like there's a lot more homebrew competitions at the moment. Like the shout out to the Malt Miller, they do have a part in that. They've got regular competitions with Elusive, and then
you just entered
intermittent competitions with other breweries as well. So they've done stuff with Burning Sky and various others in recent years, which have been
Brett won that.
Amazing. Again, shout out to Brett.
I haven't got a taste of one in beer. That was.
But you also see some more
Amazing.
of the, and again, coming back to the club thing, you see more of the regional clubs setting up and starting off competitions. So there's like Norwich Amateur Brewers have got their Oktoberfest competition, or Stein Masters, I think they've called it, coming
I
up.
always go for Scottish
for
National
the
as well.
Scottish Nationals. You got I mean, some of the competitions wax and wane a little bit. It's very dependent on people being willing to organise them. But I feel
Yeah.
like the opportunities to enter competitions have gone up in terms of the availability and range of
run
them.
one.
The Hop Edition did one once.
Since I started out. So again, I don't see that as anything where there's an obvious sign of it going downhill. I think, perhaps you might even argue that maybe there's less of a rush for the London competitions because there's more availability to enter other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
So, there's a
But it still
sort of-
sells out. That's the mad thing.
well, yeah, and that as well. It's like they still get to the point where they
It's just
run
people are
out
a
of
bit more
spaces.
lazy to maybe get their entries
Yeah.
in as quick because they know they can take their time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So,
that's kind of
yeah.
nice though. Like that sort of almost feels like the balance is good relative to places to demand, right? And you don't have to be like banging on the door as soon as the shutters open, right? So that's a good
Yeah.
one.
Are we meant to be showing a Malt Miller logo?
Yeah, we probably should be. I don't know why that's disappeared.
Yeah.
We're supposed to have two. Oh, I'll get that sorted. 2 seconds.
Shocking.
Where has our logos gone? Have we got a Malt Miller?
Do we
Sure
normally
we
have a
do.
Malt Miller logo?
I don't know.
I thought
Don't
we
think-
did. Hold on, there it is.
Hey.
There we go.
Cheers, Martin.
I'm sorry guys. I think StreamYard did some updates.
It has
and
changed
seems
a
to-
lot, actually.
Yeah, blame it on the StreamYard update. Good call
Blame
there,
on the
Owen.
technology. Yeah,
Definitely
sorry.
that.
I think it was
Definitely not
covering
our
my
fault.
face at one point, and then Chris had turned it off.
No, that's
so maybe
exactly
that's
what it is. I think he
was.
switched it off just because we
Yeah.
had extra people on there.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
the 5 of
Yeah.
us or something.
Yeah, it was good. When you were in a little tiny corner there and it was basically
Yeah.
obscuring half your face.
we turned off the logos.
Anyway,
Right,
Sorry.
I'm going to propose.
commercial break.
Yes, please, because I've got my
Let's go to a commercial break. Who wants to start?
I'll go.
Yeah.
Oh, Tricky's already in the glass.
Oh, Andy
I've
beat
been
me
drinking.
to it. He's
Andy
been
got
on that
straight
for a
on
while.
it.
If you got this, no. I seen you had a pink can.
I haven't
You-
got that, but I did
Oh,
drink
that's
that a while
okay.
back. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've still got that in the. In fact, I've got it right here. But that's not going to be my commercial beer.
But oh my
So,
goodness, right? What it's so it's like I was looking
That
for
is the
something.
sour pale ale, right? It's the,
Yeah, sour
Yeah.
pale, right? So my mouth is currently watering, right? Because I have been drinking it, and I'm just like, I need to get back, and it just pulls you in. It is definitely that sort of tartness, but it's not like mega tart or anything. But it's just,
Is it hoppy as well?
do you know what? It's got mosaic. That's sort of. If I was to guess the hops, maybe it could be Simcoe or Mosaic on the nose type thing. It's definitely got that sort of mango-y thing going on.
Okay. So just for the benefit of the listeners, what is the beer?
It's the Bullhouse.
Budgie. So it's Budgie Smuggler by Bullhouse, right? So
Great name by the way.
we got a whole load. I don't know if our listeners, if you bought the pack, it came with that, or is this one you chucked in on? I can't remember.
Was it in the actual?
That's a good
pack?
question.
I'm not sure it was. I'm sure the chat will tell us.
That might have been a bonus one.
I
Yeah,
don't think it
bonus.
was in the drink along pack.
Yeah,
But,
for the free delivery.
For anyone's wondering on the name, that perhaps some of our, I don't know, whether the US or Australian, New
Budgie
Zealand
smugglers.
listeners, a budgie smugglers are another name for Speedos.
Yeah, like the
when
tiny
men's
little.
Speedos.
Very skimpy speedos.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the skimpy speedos, not the
I'll-
trunk ones.
I'll leave your imagination
Hence,
to work out
the budgie is referring
the
to
connection.
something.
Yeah, but it's like that lovely tart thing. I keep talking right, and my mouth's watering, just like get that beer in your mouth.
I didn't
like.
know what to expect from that beer, but I basically drank it in about 3 minutes because I was just
No
like,
wonder.
oh, that's nice. It's Anyway, you tell us what it's like rather than me telling you.
Yeah, it's that sort of like lovely citrusy, slightly mango-y sort of thing going on, but it's the tartness. It just pulls you in. I think because obviously it's a sour, we're not getting the head on it, so the head's disappeared. I'll try and tease. Nah, it is. It's proper sour, which loving, absolutely loving it. Yeah, my guess would be like there's a Mosaic Simcoe thing going on. I would say more Mosaic because Simcoe I normally get a tangerine thing, whereas this screams to me Mosaic maybe. But
Maybe Idaho. Don't know. Mango. Who knows?
could be.
What
but
was
it's the grapefruit, isn't
what
it?
was what was Tom? A lot of the beers had
Simcoe.
There was a hop that they really liked. Strata. They liked Strata a lot.
Yeah,
Oh, anyone's guess. I did drink the.
I'm gonna look it up after.
I drank the passion fruit sour.
Right.
From Bullhouse last night, and that was also really good. And I do love a passion fruit sour.
You guys did well to keep those beers for that long. I think I disintegrated my pack about 3 weeks ago. So.
Did you? To be fair, I had a Baron Bruiser box arrive like not too long after, and that took focus.
I literally now only drink on a Friday and Saturday, so like my drinking is total cut. So hence why
I'd love to say the same,
not.
but I've been on my summer holidays, so it's just been fucking
Just drink it all. Fair enough.
Yeah, mowing the lawn every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Good on you. So, what would you? What's your score out of 5?
It is a 4.5, easy. Ooh. Like really good, really
Wow.
good. I would, if I was putting a Bullhouse order in, I would definitely get that again.
So that's into banger territory.
4.5
Banger.
out of 5. Strong.
That is strong.
That is big.
What a great beer.
Right. Do you want to go, Trick?
I'll go. You'll be absolutely shocked to know that it's a track beer.
Oh, what a surprise.
It's a collab with... Is it a collab? I think it's a collab. Yeah, they've teamed up with Wayward Lane, East Coast American brewery, I think, from the back of the can. It's called Murmur, so it's quite difficult to read it because it's kind of like shiny print on the can, so you have to hold it in the light. Double dry hopped West Coast IPA, Mosaic, Nectron, Mochuika Cryo, Simcoe, and Nelson Sauvin coming at a 7.4%. It's not entirely crystal clear, but it's nearly there. Not a massive amount of sort of head on it. Obviously, it's been in the glass for a little while now, but
So this is a Westie.
yeah, West Coast. It's
Has it got the bitterness?
It's definitely got the bitterness. It's really, really dry, crisp. I mean, Track, as much as they're great at doing hazy beers, they're also really good at doing the West Coast, especially when they load them up with the New Zealand hops like this one is as well. So, I mean, it's Track, it's New Zealand hops, it's a West Coast. Like, there's no chance of me
That's
not liking this beer, basically. It's all the boxes are ticked for me.
That's funny because I wouldn't gravitate towards New Zealand hops from a Westie.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I think when you get the...
If I was designing a Westie, I would not be thinking.
When you get the combination, actually, I said there is some Simcoe in there, so they've got a little bit of the Simcoe for that kind of like grapefruity, citrus rind kind of
tangerine. Do you get tangerine?
Background note. A little bit, but it's kind of like the limey grapefruit, bitter, citrus peel sort of thing. The aroma's great on it. The flavour's great. It's almost like it does sort of steer it more into American hop territory. I don't think you'd instantly go that's full of New Zealand hops if you tried it without reading the can necessarily. Not in a bad way, just that it's not as sort of grapey or limey as you might expect when it's predominantly New Zealand hops. But it's a great beer. It's full on West Coast. Yeah, super dry, super bitter, very nice. Recommend. I'd give it a 4.1 for me out of 5. So Yeah. Owen, you're on.
I'm on. I have also got half a track beer, but the other half is verdant. So I've got a can of
Nice.
Flux Phase
Is this
3,
like a collab between Track
which
and
is
Verdant?
which is a track verdant collab.
Is that a dipper?
Is that like
It's a double IPA. I'm back to
Yes,
back to
Owen!
my roots. Yeah, it's an 8% double IPA. They
the rest
released
of this pod's screwed then?
they released 3 beers. Verdant and Track collabed on 3 beers. They called them Phase 1, 2, and 3. They're all called Flux, and I think there was a pale ale, an IPA, and a double IPA. And this is the double IPA, and they featured kind of 3 separate hops, which was Nelson Sauvin, Nectaron, and a more experimental New Zealand hop called NZH 101. But what they did was they kind of, across the 3 beers, like showcased one of those hops more predominantly. So I think this one is predominantly showcasing the NZH 101, which I actually know very little about. But it is, as you can imagine, an absolute haze bomb. And on the nose, you've got that really characteristic like lime New Zealand thing. It's a little bit dank, but you got this like really prominent, ripe, like cantaloupe melon vibe. Like I've probably never experienced such a strong melon aroma from a beer. Super, super ripe melon. And they're just like a smorgasbord of other tropical fruit. Smells amazing. Smells like just shoving your face in a papaya melon fruit bowl and just
he's motorboating melons and various other tropical fruits.
Yeah, amazing. So I'm going to taste it now. So as you can imagine from a double IPA, a hazy double IPA, it's definitely got like that quite thick, pillowy, quite slick mouthfeel, but it's got a pretty decent bitterness to it. So it kind of balances it out. It's not overly sweet.
That's what you want.
It's not cloying.
From the 2 absolute titans of making that style.
Absolutely.
Hope so, you know.
I would imagine that actually
there was zero chance it was going to be shit, wasn't there? Like,
right, there's very little chance. And the fact that I have already drunk this 2 or 3 times.
And this isn't a 4.8. I'm going to be gutted.
He's been writing this review for like a week. This is.
I've been at it a while.
Been rehearsing it in the mirror and everything, haven't you?
Yeah.
all 3 of the beers were really, really, really good. And this is not any different. This is a really, really decent beer. And the bitterness, I reckon those IBUs are at least 60 IBUs. It's quite... But bear in mind, it's a big beer. So it's going to be carrying... And it might even say it's more than that. But amazing, amazing tropical fruit flavour. And balanced and dry enough to really hide its strength and make it incredibly drinkable.
That's what
so super, super nice beer. I'd give it a solid 4 out of 5. It's not.
I must be wrecked if I'm giving a 4.5.
It's not wowing. It's not wowing.
I think you went a bit hard on this on that one. To be fair,
it's not out of this world. But it is an exceptionally crafted double IPA. It's probably just a little bit too bitter for me for the style. I'd probably want it just like a little bit softer. Probably jack that juice a little bit more. That said, I have had it hanging around a little while. I wouldn't have thought that would make too much of a difference, but it was canned in end of May, so it's been in the can for 3 months.
Is it unconventional tactics? It's a.
that's the All Nelson.
All Nelson double IPA. Yeah.
Is that better? Would you say?
Oh yeah, I think I would say that's a better beer.
because that's my sort of like absolute holy grail of that style, I would say.
I think, especially when we drank it on the pod as well, I think that was the peak of that beer as well. It's not necessarily been as good in like following iterations of it. It's always been consistently
good,
solid, like really good. But I think we certainly when we drank it on a pod together, it was
it's plastered on my fridge. That's how I was looking with a Ninja Warrior on it.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was the great can art as well. I mean, the old dipper, the occasional dipper is a bit of a treat. So I'm gonna enjoy supping this one.
Nice.
Right.
Cool.
Well,
at it.
Good to have a little commercial break once.
Commercial break done. So we were sort of starting to lean more into, I guess, the positive spin on this, as opposed to sort of just reviewing the, what people have said is going wrong with homebrewing, which.
What's that?
I wouldn't say we sort of dismissed all of those arguments, but I think we've put up a good counter argument to some of the main points there. At the very least, we started talking about club participation and how a lot of the feedback that we've had and also personal experience has indicated that actually club participation seems to be at worst stable and at best is actually doing quite well, if not increasing. We've not heard many people with a different view. I don't think we've had anyone in the chat either sort of contradicting that point. We've already covered Google search trends and so on. I mean, yeah, as far as our own experience of, we've talked about the growing audience for the podcast as well. There's some other sort of points to raise here, I think, in terms of looking at it from a wider viewpoint as opposed to our own personal experience. Certainly in terms of like the industry and the availability of ingredients, tools, resources, equipment, all the rest of it. One thing that you could certainly put forward as a measurable positive argument for homebrewing is that and I think somebody mentioned this in the chat earlier as well, is that, well, if these companies are putting investment and money into developing and putting out new, more advanced equipment, more
yeast
expensive
strains.
stuff.
It was like the yeast strains. Like how many dried yeast strains have we had?
It's across the
recently?
board. It's your
insane.
yeast. It's your
It's
all-in-one
amazing.
systems. You've got brew tools who are putting out new stuff all the time. You've got the same thing from Kegland. You've got Grainfather doing the same. There's companies that will try and get into that market, and their stuff might not land, and they might go out of business.
So maybe there is an argument for the American audience, starting to.
That's a good point. You don't hear that much about SS Brewtech anymore, do you?
Because I heavily invested in SS Brewtech, but
their kit's great, but it was.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they never really came out. I mean, did SS Brewtech ever come out with a sort of competitor in terms of an all-in-one system, or did they always focus on?
I think they did.
What was their system that
they
did
had?
for that?
There was a basket thing.
Yeah, it was quite quirky, as I remember.
I'm
not sure it took off.
Because I always think of them as kind of like the sort of, what appeals to the free vessel brewer sort of, where you want your separate stuff.
They had the Chronicle and they had the Unitanks, but I think there's been issues in Europe as well with importing the Unitank with I think it was regulation stuff, because we did ask the Malt Miller about this, and I think there was, and then also it was like different shipping locations as well, where if you wanted to bring in the Unitank, you had to take in this big order of Unitanks, where if you wanted to get the pots and the Chronicles, it was from a different factory, then you could get a container from there. So it didn't make commercial sense to actually import the Unitank as well. So if you go and you want a stainless steel Unitank, then there's other options now that you can get from the Malt Miller. So it's not like you can't. It's like you're now looking at brew tools. And what's the other one that you can get? Can you remember? The one it's very shiny, very shiny.
You
It's
have to
like,
narrow it down more than that, Andy.
oh,
Shiny.
I'm gonna have to go on the Malt Miller website, but there's another one. I
It's
don't
got
know.
like an X in it, isn't it? X
If
built?
it's
No.
Brewbilt.
Brewbill.
Well
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brewbilt. So there's options. So it's not like you can't buy a unitank anymore. There is. It's just you're not going to get an SS brew.
But
tank
this
unitank.
is all part of the point, isn't it? There's still companies that are trying to get into that space
Into
Yeah.
the market.
because
Totally.
there's value
Yeah.
in it, right?
Yeah.
And I guess that's the overall point is that we've never before been at a point where you've got so much choice, availability, and I mean, with the caveat that yes, the prices of everything is going up, but also value for money in terms of like what you can actually get.
But
Um,
do you boys or you guys have been advocates for all the you get the plastic fermenters that are
Yeah, well,
and it's
that's what I'm
super
talking
accessible.
about. You know,
It-
because a few, let's say even 5 years back,
Yeah.
if you wanted to do pressure fermentation,
You were stainless
what could you buy?
or keg. You could do
You
you
could
could
do-
do a short,
And that was it. That was people having to sort of, MacGyver their own sort of
Yeah,
system up by
Forgal.
doing it with kegs and stuff, and then
Yep.
um,
Or you
Or-
went big with the SS Brewtech at the time.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
now you can get Kegland, Keg King.
you can do that for under £100 all
Yeah.
in for everything you need to do pressure fermentation. So
Brooksy's just raised a point. Who these days starts with a plastic bucket?
I'm
well,
sure there's
most
lots
people
of
probably still do. To
but-
be fair, I don't. Let's not sort of put this just through the lens of the all grain brewer who's sort of been doing it for a while, which I think is easy to do. Most people are still going to start off with a kit, right? Like
A kit and a bucket, yeah.
I have
Yeah.
met very, very few. I'm not saying that they don't
yeah.
exist, but there's very few people who jump straight in at all grain
Yeah.
and go, "I'm going to start pressure fermenting because I watched it on a YouTube video." And like, how many people come to your homebrew club, Owen, who started off with a all rounder and they went, "I just bought a fucking grain father," dropped £1,000 on equipment on day one.
Yeah, not that many people. They do exist. But
Unusual.
Not many
But
people,
you
right?
could. I think it is financially plausible to be able to get an all rounder, and that would be your starting
Second-hand,
ferment.
maybe.
That
Yeah,
could be your
yeah.
starting fermenting vessel.
Or even new. Yeah, like, you anyone that's wise enough to go, actually what I really ought to invest in is probably more the fermentation vessel and a firm fridge over buying a really expensive all-in-one.
But
Probably
on.
wise.
no,
I'm
no,
not sure
no,
there's many people out
no. I think getting a plastic bucket is a great investment because I still use all of my plastic buckets that I
there. So do
bought.
I. Yeah.
Still, grain, scoop in grain,
Water.
water, wastewater, anything. Buckets, that is not a loss.
I've got a few that are hanging around, but there was a couple that went to the skip the other day because I had some
Serious?
of the 10-litre ones that had just literally been on the shelf, and they were when you
okay.
stack them
Yeah.
together and they go rotten because they've got
No, I don't know. that.
it was
I
some crap.
still
I've
use
got-
all
I was
very-
like, I just can't be bothered trying to clean that, so I
Literally.
was just like, fuck it in the bin.
I've got 3 of them. I've got the shorter one and then 2 of the tall ones that I got from Beerhawk at the time.
But
and
no,
they
I
all
agree.
still
Other
get
than
used.
that, I am loath to throw away a bucket because
Uh-huh.
it's one of the
I've
most
got-
universally
I've got,
useful tools in like in a
Correct.
brewery,
Yeah, they
right?
are, right? Like that's a very, very good point. So Andy's point is totally valid.
Yeah,
That starting with buckets
that's fine.
is super useful because no matter where you end up going,
Yeah.
You
you're
still,
still going to
buckets.
use those buckets. And I've
Yeah.
got 3 30-litre buckets I still use today.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they are indispensable in my brewery
Cleaning.
for
I've
various
got
things.
I've got a dedicated bucket just for weighing the grain out,
Yeah.
and a dedicated bucket for the cleaning solution.
Exactly.
Dedicated
they also,
bucket for just like a spare one in case something else goes wrong.
They also double up as quite useful for washing the car. So
I've got
you know,
buckets. I've got separate
yeah.
buckets. Although one got a crack in it, so yeah.
what are you going to do?
I wouldn't switch those ones. with
But
the-
just so coming
crack in it.
back to the argument just around kind of SS Brewtech and maybe some of the American manufacturers and those sort of names in kind of our UK homebrew markets, I think in reality there's sort of, as with everything with homebrewing, the Americans kind of led it.
Yep.
And I think what we've probably seen over the last 4 or 5 years is European and or Australian or even kind
Aussies have
of
definitely.
wider
Well, I think
distribution into the UK.
Yeah, shout out
Right.
to Australia though. I think they've definitely
They've led the innovation.
they've jumped ahead a little bit as far as definitely in terms of like the pressure fermentation and plastic,
affordability.
fermenters, affordable end of the market. Because I don't think there's an American equivalent to your Kegland, Keg King, all rounder. I mean.
No,
again, anyone jump into the comments if I'm wrong.
Yeah, because
that's all from
Clawhammer,
Australia via China.
Tricky Clawhammer did for the fermenting vessel. They went for a kind of oversized, what do you call it?
Like ox bar type.
No, it was like a ball lock keg,
like an oversized ball lock keg.
Yeah, stainless keg.
Yeah, like a 23-litre keg.
Yeah, they went oversized on it, and then they had issues with it. They put a tri-clamp on it, and then it was like you could just take it off, and I think it shot into the blood. It went into the ceiling, so they ended up with a special key where you had to, it was like a cast iron interlocking key thing, if you're electric mind, where you had to, disengage pressure before you're allowed to take the lock off to take off. Yeah,
I very nearly made that mistake with a fermenter that I had arrive this week, and which was a Titan Apollo, which had been pressurized, and I was trying to take the lid off, and I was like, why is this lid so tight? And I was really trying to have to crank it off. And then I stopped for a second and went, I wonder if it's pressurised. And I pulled it and it was like, and I was like so glad that I didn't actually get the lid off, because that would have taken my head off.
Yeah.
Had that hit me.
It would have come off at speed.
It would have shot off at a rate of knots.
You got a Titan on?
Yeah.
Stainless?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I bought it off Chris.
Oh, did you buy that one?
He's definitely given
up.
Yeah. And Chris bought it a little while ago, and to my knowledge, never used it. And obviously was getting rid of all of his gear, and I was like, there's very little I don't actually need gear-wise, but I did fancy a stainless steel fermenter, so...
Yes.
That's going to get some good use.
Oh well.
But I'm not going to use it tomorrow, because I'm going to go double batch.
Yeah.
And it's only a 30-litre fermenter, but there you go.
Yeah.
So just sort of coming back to the whole point around, I actually think we need to labour this point a little bit in terms of a huge indicator to why the hobby is not declining is the amount of, corporate investment into what is clearly a valuable market and a very competitive market, and you're seeing that across all elements.
Well, let's come back to WHC as a good case study for that. How many new yeast strains have been brought to the homebrew market, and they don't need to do that, right? There is no imperative for them to put those strains into homebrew packaging if it isn't worth money to them to do that. And it's still going to be a small portion of their business, whatever way you look at it. But there must be value in it for a company that have effectively almost doubled the number of dry yeasts available to homebrewers in a small number of years. And again, like what's the counterpoint to that? Like, what are they doing that just out of the goodness of the heart? Have they just got a really enthusiastic ex-home brewer as their CEO? I don't think that's likely. But we've never had it so good as far as and whether you see it as other companies following their lead or not, there's more yeast available from Laumon, there's more yeast available from Mangrove Jacks, there's more yeast. Not Safale don't seem to be that keen on releasing new yeast, but they've maybe they'll catch up at some point.
Yeah, true and tested, I think.
They're happy just to sit on their market. On their USO5 is always going to sell, so why bother trying with anything new?
I mean, it is. I think USO5 is still by and large the most popular yeast.
Oh, that's what I'm probably getting at there.
Yeah.
I think
I found a really interesting website that was called like homebrewing trends or something, and I don't know who owns the website. It's called beeranalytics.com, and it just sort of randomly tracks trending hops and most used hops and most used yeasts, which is really interesting. So yeah, US05 represents 20% of all yeasts used.
There you go. Yeah. So that keeps fermentus and
which is
production.
mental. But I don't know where the data comes from. I don't know how reliable it is. So it's.
I reckon a lot of commercial
love.
breweries are still using US05, and I mean US05 was pretty solid. It's got that peach. I think peach defines US05. It takes a bit to clear. It can be a bit dusty on the back of the throat when it's young, but when it clears and it's got that sort of peachy thing, it's nice. It makes great beer. So yeah.
Yeah, I know you're quite the aficionado on US05, Andy.
I've not used it, Owen, for a good number of years now. I've been using a lot of the WHC stuff, Sanders, Saturated, and then recently we've been trialling all the various different WHC yeasts, so the Mango Madness, Pineapple Passion, the High Voltage, and then it's been like the Lager Train as well for the last couple of years, where it's been hop and pills. Or Einstein. I think Einstein went in the latest hop tester. What was mine this year? 373. So, there's been a lot of new yeast to go through as well. But I mean, US05 is solid as long as you're okay with the maturation. I think the time for it to.
Yeah. And the flocculation as well, yeah.
That's what I mean.
That's what you're getting at, yeah.
Because I get a kind of dusty.
It's a dusty motherfucker, isn't it? Like the thing with US05 that always pissed me off was like you get it to the point where it's finally cleared, and then one little nudge
of the keg,
and it's like, back in. But it was. I remember I've done vacant gesture.
Motherfucker.
the Harrison's Brewery vacant gesture recipe. I've done it with US05, which is what it should have, and then I've tried other ones, and it's just not the same. It's like US05 is actually the best yeast for that beer.
Yeah, but that's also, I think, because there is a little bit of an estery profile from that yeast, which
peach.
It's the and this was one of the things I talked about with the high voltage yeast video that I did, where it was like. It's so clean that it's almost not a West Coast yeast, because the West Coast yeast still have something to them that adds a little bit of flavour. And don't get me wrong, like it's a really good yeast to use for West Coast style beers, because it's so clean. It's all hop, it's all it's all clean, it's all whatever. But it basically just doesn't add anything as far as the yeast profile.
I love how we're going down a yeast sort of sidetrack thing.
Yeast rabbit hole. You're right. Actually, we should probably pull it back.
We should. We always get down a rabbit hole on something. Don't
I mean, to be honest, like if we, I mean, I'm looking at the notes now and thinking like. We've done quite a lot of the stuff in terms of like the counter argument for why it's healthy. Have we missed anything out? Like,
what's the Malt Miller saying? That's
probably where we want to lead it into towards the end with the final word maybe from our
sponsor, and they actually did give us an amazing statement on what their thoughts were on this. Then does anyone? Who's
going? Well, you started it, Andy.
I did start it.
I'll go if you want. I mean,
on your ledge.
I'll fill it in. So Rob and Stiffo kind of waded in on this debate, and partly I suspect because we baited it slightly in terms of the sort of the controversy surrounding the title of the discussion, but nonetheless, are super useful. piece of insight, and I'm not going to go through too much the detail, but broadly speaking, what the Malt Miller have seen, excluding the COVID years, is just a measurably growing customer base. And I think Stiffo stuck in the chat earlier that they've seen 13,000 subs to their YouTube channel in the past 2 years. They're seeing a growing customer base in terms of orders, a steady increase in orders. COVID, by all accounts, was absolutely mental for them. Partly to the reasons that we talked about earlier, with everyone kind of getting a bit of an interest.
Just to chip in on that, to grow that channel up to 13,000 subs, and it's difficult to build subscriptions on homebrewing channels because it's a very niche hobby. But to go to that level, and also because you're in the UK as well, and you look at some of the US channels and go, oh yeah, you can get up to certain numbers, but to get 30, even 40 above 10k in the UK is a massive achievement, and it just speaks to the quality of the videos that they put out and the widespread appeal of what they're doing. It's not just a fucking marketing, thing. It's educational. In fact, it's primarily it's educational. Obviously there is an angle for them to be trying to advertise what they're putting out there, but they're going out and getting so much information for us, and all credit to them. And they deserve 100,000, not 10,000 subs, in my opinion.
Million,
absolutely. One of the best homebrew channels out there. I'm not saying that because they're a sponsor, because I would say
these days
I think they're just doing great stuff, and Stiffo, your work on it is amazing. Fucking love it. So respect to you guys.
The best. Well, who else is putting out content apart from you? And
I mean, I'm barely putting out content, mate. I struggle to
I think it's you and Big Banana that's holding up the BrewTube community at the minute.
And Ricky
Rick.
Shaw.
Rick Shaw's doing good stuff.
He's doing his
we need more people to help. I mean, that if there's one area of it that has dropped off a bit, it's the fucking BrewTube thing. Come on, where's all the old school? You two as well. Where are your videos at?
Do you know what? I've got two full. I do the brew porn, right? Yeah. The cinematic. I've got two of those sitting, right? And I literally need to do a tasting and talk through, and that's it. And I can
get
put
on
up
it,
two
mate.
videos.
Get on it. Do you know what? I nearly got back to it, right? I think it was after Rick talked to me on one of the after party chats, and he's like, "Oh no, I used to love your channel. You should get back to it." Blah blah. And I think I also had some B-roll, and I needed to do a tasting, and I sat down. I did the tasting. And then I discovered that I forgot to press record. And I was just so disheartened. And I've had mic problems as well, where I'll record something and the mic bloody doesn't work. And it was just this is just too much effort. And anyway, my main focus is the podcast. And that's the main outlet. But yeah.
Sorry, we misspoke on the subscribers, by the way. It's 20k now for the Malt Miller, so they're actually even further ahead than we thought. But again, well deserved. More than that should be in there. And Martin said that I should be getting an extra 10% discount for all of that bum licking.
That's a
fair pitch.
Yes, absolutely. Richard's channel with the old whatchamacallit, what's the, I always forget the name of that system. The Burton Union mini system.
Union system, yeah.
Incredible.
Did anyone catch his,
check it out.
I really enjoyed his robust porter.
The robust
intro
porter
video.
Army General style reenactment thing, I did not realise we were getting that sort of Blackadder style comedy element to his channel, but I'm here for it, 100%.
Same here. That was definitely great. Left field, but it thoroughly enjoyable. So hats off to you.
Which is good. Brewery. We need more people.
Yeah, more characters as well, because that was really that was funny shit. Keep it up with the comedy stuff, dude. That was awesome.
So guys, I think let's wrap this up. We're sort of just hitting 2 hours right now. I think we I think we've made a pretty strong debate about some really valid base arguments about why homebrewing might be in trouble.
Yep.
I think we've provided a really strong perspective in terms of what our thoughts are on the subject. We've tried to bring some factual perspectives to it. And I guess the question is open to our listeners as to what their own conclusion is on that.
Yeah.
I think there's a closing ask for everyone that listens to this podcast, whether live or afterwards, is just start to be more mindful and thoughtful about how perhaps we could start to encourage others into the hobby, and how can we make it more accessible and more inclusive. So how often are we talking to people about homebrewing and the joys of homebrewing, and how it can be easy? And I think a lot of people that tune into this podcast tend to be really interested, avid, at some point on the journey of advanced all-grain brewing, to the extent that we do understand how to get into the hobby to be able to do it simply. So why don't we explain to people how to do it simply? The pinter, the extract kits, the fresh work kits, the buy a bucket, because you'll definitely want to use that later, even if you take the hobby forward. Because I think the more people we can get into this hobby, the better, and I think that's just going to grow the community and make it more fun and more engaging. And I'm all for that.
100%. I think we've established that there's nothing to panic about right now.
No.
But there's a few things that we need to be aware of, and let's try and keep new people coming into the hobby and joining us and coming to clubs, entering competitions, getting involved on the socials and Facebook groups and whatever way you want to interact with people. And part of that is just being friendly and welcoming to people, and let's not make it a hobby that's exclusive to any one particular demographic, even though it is exclusively one demographic in a lot of cases.
I think we've explored as to why that might be inevitable, but in the same way as golf or
knitting. The women always want their males in the knitting groups, so
that's it.
They're always moaning about that. It's so Sarah, my wife.
I reckon we probably ought to dodge that discussion in depth, in the interest of our own future.
That's it. If somebody comes and talks to you about homebrewing, just encourage them to come to a group. Like I always say to people who ask me about it, like, you can come to the homebrew club and have never brewed a beer. Just come along and taste some beers and talk to people about homebrewing. It doesn't have to be exclusively like you have to be a homebrewer to come to the club. Come along and talk to people and have tried some of the beers and see what you can make at home. And even like if somebody came to the club and was like, I've no idea what this is all about, like I'd be happy for them if they were to come and join me on a brew day or whatever. And that's the sort of thing I think that people need to do to try and grow the hobby, is just to be open to that and sort of say it's not this kind of like you can only come into the club if you bring a beer of a certain standard. And I hate that sort of that thing where it's like extract brewers are not welcome here, we're all grain, and that's it. I don't think that is a thing, to be fair, but I think it can be intimidating for people to come along to clubs. But I genuinely think that the vast majority of homebrewers and homebrew clubs would be entirely welcoming to you, whether you've just literally poured water on your first extract kit or whether you've not even tried homebrewing before and you just want to come along and talk to people and try some beers. So maybe a shout out to people who might not there's going to be many, but that might listen to this who've never homebrewed before. Just go to a club and try and engage with people, and go and watch some videos on YouTube from the Malt Miller, who have got great videos for people who are starting out. go and watch some terrible videos from me if you want to try and build your own kit from buckets and cool boxes and stuff like that. Go and listen to some of the early podcasts, and genuinely, I think that one thing I will say is the homebrewing community, in my experience, is full of some of the most sort of welcoming and easy to talk to people that I've met in my life, and I've made a huge amount of friends for it, including you guys. So don't want to get too lovey-dovey about it, but that's genuinely how I've heard. You guys are fucking awesome, man.
It sounds like that West Coast Dippers stuff. Good point. No,
Anyway.
really good points made passionately there, Tricky, and I think we're gonna have to close this one off, guys. I think should we sign off, and I'll just
catch up.
Just call out, like, by all means, jump on social media. Share your thoughts on this subject. We've got handles on Instagram. We've got our Facebook page. You can find us at the Hop Edition on Instagram and on Facebook. Obviously, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you aren't already subscribed, and hit that bell for upcoming notifications. And just to call out, we'll be tuning in for the next episode on the, I'm just going to double check the date, 6th of September, where we're going to be doing another BJCP drink along.
Yep.
On monastic ales,
A destructive and dangerous drink along.
So we're going to be turning into monks for the night. So
we'll put up the socials, won't we? We'll get the beers up, and then it's a case of if you want to try and source them yourself, or I think who were we gonna?
We're probably gonna source some from the beer merchants, most likely.
Yeah,
we'll stick some links on if we can. We'll source some beers from the Malt Miller, but
why not?
We're going to be covering effectively single, triple, double, quad.
Yeah.
And we're going to be going from...
What could possibly go wrong there?
What could possibly go wrong? So that could be quite a long one. So listen, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to stick a link to the...
Turn up for the after party to watch us sleep on that one.
Or dribble, one of the two. I've stuck a link to the after party in the chat for anyone that's listening along live. Just come along if you've never joined us before.
Exactly.
Super friendly.
Yeah. Again,
casual conversation.
Back to the point. You don't have to be an experienced homebrewer. Just jump in for a chat, guys.
Most of the time, we're not even talking about beer. We're just shooting.
We're just admiring Owen's hair for most of it. It's just how do you keep it so luscious?
I don't know, L'Oreal. What can I say?
Because he's worth it.
Yeah, David Ginola style. Cool. Right, that's episode 122.
In the
complete.
bag.
In
nice
the
one.
bag.
Cheers, guys.
Nice one.
See you on the next one.
Adios.